This is the podcast that digs deep into life's weirdest questions and then throws a Hail Mary straight into the end zone of curiosity. Yep, it's that time of year again, and this week we are suited up because we are talking football. No, not the stuff you hear about in sports radio. No stats, no spreadsheets, no explaining the difference between a nickel D and a dime package, or whatever else loose change is laying around. But since it is football season, we are devoting this entire episode to tackling the real mysteries of the gridiron. Like, why is the football shaped like someone punted a loaf of bread and just decided,
yeah, let's go with that.
Or tailgating. Where did that come from?
You know what this gravel parking lot needs? Barbecue.
And who decided that dumping 5 gallons of fruit punch on someone's head was the highest honor in sports? Yep, we're calling the weirdest plays in the game, and we are definitely going for it on 4th and long. So huddle up and welcome to the podcast that answers some of the questions you've always wondered about.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Hi, I'm Rick Peterson. Thank you for joining us. We begin our football episode the way any game begins, with a coin toss. But have you always wondered why a high-stakes gladiator-style game starts with something you might normally use to decide who does the dishes?
Heads you wash, tails you dry.
Well, the coin toss goes all the way back to ancient Rome as a way to settle disputes. I guess they weren't fans of rock, paper, scissors. So football adopted the coin toss as well. Now, in the early days, it was a simple, fast way to determine who was going to kick off and who was going to receive. But then it evolved. It became not about the coin, but about the moment. You know this scene. Multiple captains standing tall, a special guest coin tosser, and of course, the referee, solemnly explaining the rules as if he's reciting a Shakespearean monologue.
This is a commemorative coin. Heads is the picture of a goat wearing a crown that reads G-O-A-T, goat. Tails is the same goat wearing a tuxedo with tails. Call it in the air, no takebacks.
Well, the good news is we won the flip of fate. So we're choosing to kick off this whole thing with a simple question. Have you always wondered why a football is shaped the way it is? It's not round. It's not quite an oval.
Looks like a potato that's been yelled at too much.
Exactly. So where did it come from? Well, let's rewind to the 1800s. American-style football was still trying to figure out what it wanted to be when it grew up. And what did they use for a ball? Yep, a pig bladder. And that's why we refer to it as the pigskin. They would inflate these bladders by mouth.
Ew, gross!
Tie off the ends and wrap them in leather. And because no pig bladder is perfectly round, the ball ended up more like a strange oblong shape.
It's kind of like an egg that did CrossFit.
But as the game evolved, the ball did too. They eventually ditched the pig's bladder and replaced it with rubber, but they leaned into the weird and kept the shape. It actually has a name.
Prolate spheroid.
That's correct.
That's a fancy math term for pointy on both ends and impossible to explain at parties.
It made the ball easier to throw, flashier to catch, and more hilarious when fumbled.
Fumble!
So the next time you see that oddly shaped ball spiraling through the air like a caffeinated torpedo, just remember, it all started with a pig's internal organ, a rubber upgrade, and a complete disregard for symmetry.
The Always Wondered podcast.
Our football episode continues, but when it comes to football, some of the real action isn't even in the stadium. So that brings us to tailgating. That sacred ritual where football fans arrive at the stadium hours, sometimes days before kickoff, to sit in a parking lot, next to a grill, behind their car. They bring tents, folding chairs, cornhole, 12 racks of ribs, an inflatable mascot the size of a small house, and most importantly, zero intention of getting into the stadium on time. So have you always wondered where tailgating comes from? Well, this unique tradition actually goes way back to the first college football game ever, Rutgers versus Princeton in 1869. Fans showed up early with wagons and picnic baskets and wine. Because nothing says gridiron intensity like a nice Merlot.
A toast to touchdowns. Cheers.
Now fast forward to the 20th century, and people kept showing up early with lots of food. By the 1950s, horse-drawn wagons were long gone, but station wagons were all the rage.
The bigger, lower-priced F-85 station wagon at your Oldsmobile quality dealers.
And that's when the term tailgating was born, when fans literally lowered the tailgate of their station wagons and trucks, sat on it, or used it as a serving table, functional and festive.
Hey, who needs a stadium snack bar when I got meat and beer right here on this asphalt?
Over time, tailgating became an art form. Tailgating recipes are passed down like family heirlooms. People bring TVs, generators, chandeliers even. Some fans show up to the tailgate and never actually go to the game.
Oh, I gave up my season tickets in 09, but I haven't missed a tailgate since 92.
This is football culture at its finest. Equal parts tradition, chaos, and cholesterol. Because sometimes it's not just about the game. It's about showing up early, setting up camp, and celebrating a sport you love with 73,000 of your closest strangers. Plus that one uncle who always brings questionable chili.
Oh, excuse me.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Here we are. It's been a long game, but we are up by 2 touchdowns. It's the final seconds. The clock ticks down. Fans are screaming, and then there it is. 2 massive linemen sneak up behind the coach, and boom! Gatorade shower. Suddenly, the coach is soaked in ice-cold neon green sugar water. The team celebrates, the coach shivers, and America smiles. But have you always wondered, what's the origin of the Gatorade shower? I mean, did someone look at a giant plastic cooler and think,
yeah, let's wear that?
Well, it all began in the mid-1980s, thanks to the New York Giants. Defensive tackle Jim Burt was reportedly frustrated with his head coach, Bill Parcells, for being particularly hard on him that week during practice. So after a big win in 1984, Burt decided to cool things off. Literally. He and teammate Harry Carson dumped a cooler of Gatorade on Parcells' head. But instead of getting benched, they started a trend. The Giants kept doing it after every big win. Soon the media picked up on it, then college teams joined in, and before long, every major coach in America lived in constant fear of cold citrus.
Is it behind me? The cooler, I mean. I can feel it watching me.
And now it's tradition. Win a championship, and you must be baptized in lemon lime victory juice. But it's not always glamorous. Coaches have been hit with Gatorade in sub-zero temperatures. One got it well before the game actually ended, and another slipped on the Gatorade puddle afterwards. So the next time you see that cooler slowly lifting to the air behind a victorious coach, take a moment to salute the messy legacy of Jim Burt and his thirst for vengeance. And remember, nothing says, "We love you, coach," like mild hypothermia.
Oh, geez, that's cold.
The Always Wondered podcast.
Well, the clock has run out on this episode. Now, there's a lot more we could have touched on, like, have you always wondered why refs used to end each quarter of play by firing off a pistol? I don't know, I guess someone finally decided that shooting off a gun in a stadium full of people, probably not the best idea. However, it is a long season, and so maybe we'll revisit some of the oddities that make up this great game that we all love so much. Until then, we leave you with one to ponder. Have you always wondered why players insist on tapping each other on the butt? I mean, for some reason this is okay on the field, but try this in the office and you just earn yourself a trip to HR. So until next time, stay curious and keep wondering. I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for listening.
The Always Wondered podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and a review. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. Feel free to offer suggestions for future topics or simply reach out to alwayswonderedpodcast@gmail.com.